Now, a green energy disaster in the making in California, where the monster heat wave there is putting extra pressure on the state's electric grid. So you can only imagine how much worse this will all get once the state ban of the sales of gas cars goes into effect. And there are more electric vehicles sucking up the power. And even now, Governor Newsom is telling drivers not to charge their electric vehicles until 9 at night because of the threat of rolling outages. But that's not all he's asking folks across the state to do. Watch.
Everyone has to do their part to help step up for just a few more days. When the early morning hours, particularly tomorrow and the next day or so, pre-cool your home. Run your air conditioning earlier in the day when more power is available. Close your windows and blinds to keep your home cool as well. And today and tomorrow afternoon after 4 p.m., in particular 4 p.m., please turn your thermostat up to 78 degrees or higher.
So California residents are bracing for blackouts just 4 days after President Joe Biden's Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm praised the state's green policies, saying they could even become the model for the rest of the nation. Watch.
I love the fact that California is unabashedly bold about energy policy. The leading indicator for the rest of the country. California's boldness has, I think, shaped our willingness in the federal government to move further and faster.
Oh, the unabashedly bold policies, Kayleigh. You've got to be kidding me. So Newsom bans gas cars, but you can't charge your electric vehicle until after 9 at night. And this is the model that the federal government wants to emulate?
Yeah, you're exactly right. So you have a very stark dichotomy here. You've got the Gavin Newsom model, where you may not have electricity tonight, or you have the Ron DeSantis model, a state that also happens to be hot, where I can guarantee you my fellow Floridians will be able to turn on the lights this evening. These are the two models, and what this comes down to is a utopia for renewable energy, where they're relying on solar, they're relying on hydraulic power. Jeremy White, I believe, is the political reporter from California who said about 27% is currently renewable energy. Well, what happens in 2045 when 100% of California is renewable and the sun doesn't shine after 4 p.m.? Okay, well, you're really going to have rolling blackouts then, perhaps not just in 2 counties, but the entirety of the state. This is why utopia doesn't work. Common sense does. You pick which state you want to live in. I know my choice.
That's right. And Harris, I know it hits close to home for you too, because you lived in California as well.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you know, aspirational is one thing, but you have to take care of people in the interim. And the images of people, you know, cooling themselves off with ice on their heads in Santa Rosa after they've suffered fires because of the ineptitude of PG&E, only to be told by PG&E, we're going to shut off your power so you can't cool down. And the governor, with his long sleeve shirt on, says, keep your house at 78 degrees.
So first of all, Emily, thank you. As you always do, you bring in that human element. I don't know if they're looking at this, but look at the homeless population in California. What are they doing?
That's right.
And when you talk about electric cars, not everybody has the plug-in in their house. Some people are still going up the street, not all, but some. And so now you have people who can't even do that. And what happens to your battery on your phone in extreme temperatures? They don't work as efficiently. I mean, there are all sorts of reasons why they need to rethink this. But California in particular, it's that human element. When I lived there, it was high school and college. My dad, after the military, we lived in the Bay Area. I went to school in Southern California, so I've touched it all. But I was in Arizona the last couple of weeks. 114, 15 degrees to us is not as big a deal as it is in California. And they're getting into those teens this week. I can't even imagine what that's like for them. That's going to be really tough. I hear him saying don't plug stuff in, but he's not talking about that human element.
That's right. And to her point, the Sacramento area got up to, I think, 112. And this is on the heels, you know, I think what's hard for me to stomach as a Californian too, is that this is a government that asks so much of their citizens. You know, they're so bankrupt and they ask for so many more taxes. They ask for so much more faith in their policies that do nothing but constrict and curb behavior. And then they fail consistently at these fundamental basic needs, like providing the electrical grid system that provides for air conditioning during heat waves. It's really hard to fathom.
Well, this is what Californians want. They elected these people because they believe in the fact that they want to transition to a world in which it's all clean energy. I talked to my sister. She lives in Los Angeles. She's
okay with this?
She's hot. She's sweating on FaceTime, but she has her AC at 78 degrees.
Wow.
She wants to make sure that, you know, her son is kept cool enough. He's just 2 years old. But this is not going to change the way that they feel about these, yes, lofty goals, but a place that we do have to get. And I find it astounding. The last couple of days of conversation about what's going on have totally missed the most important element of this, which is the impact of climate change and these heat waves and these droughts. You mentioned hydropower. California is down 48% of the available hydropower because of droughts. The reservoir levels are too low.
So why not use
California,
nuclear? Like
well,
Florida?
they are. Gavin Newsom,
he
by
rolled
the way,
back nuclear, and now he's bringing it back because he's like, oh,
he kept open he did what people asked. He kept open the last nuclear plant. He is using more fossil fuel energy than he had wanted to. But think about the fact that California has always imported 25% of their electricity from 5 neighboring western states. 4 of those 5 states now can't supply it because of the record heat waves and because of the droughts. So ignoring climate change, which is the reason this is happening, because we are burning too many fossil fuels, completely misses the point. It isn't comfortable in California right now, but why aren't you talking about that existential threat to the planet?
Well, I think it's a little bit fallacious to say that people elected this, because I think the choice is
They went to the polls, and Larry Elder ran this whole recall campaign, right? It was all over the airwaves saying, you know, I'm going to take it back. Gavin Newsom is hated. Gavin Newsom won by bigger margins than he did in the proper election versus the recall.
I think that's a greater reflection of him sharing a lot of political donations with big Democrat stars that we will actually cover later in the show. And the fact that they run a bully pulpit there. They run an absolute bully pulpit. There's no actual way that someone that has real logical views could win there and succeed. It's not that the buffet choice is actually equal. Most Californians I know are deeply disappointed with the people in elected office, but unfortunately they're not given a greater choice. And your sister, who's able to keep her house at 78 degrees and has her 2-year-old son thriving there, all of those homeless, all of those people who don't have their choices in the inner cities that are also in food deserts, they can't even keep the refrigeration up right now.
It's not even just the thousands of homeless. And I say just about the number, not the people, obviously. You guys know me well enough to know that. But it's about resources too, Jessica. It's about who has the resources. And if you look at the learning gap for children in those inner cities like Compton, when you look at that, it is across the board resource sucking for them. And so now, at this time, it's about air conditioning. If we were back on digital, it'd be about education again, because those have to be plugged in too. I mean, this is about having a blind spot for transition. Even Elon Musk has talked about this. We have to transition 20% of electricity coming from coal. Another chunk, 50 to 60% coming from fossil fuels. And we're not ready yet. And if the California grid doesn't preach it to us, if that bully pulpit can't show us with that huge population and the suffering that, and I'm glad your sister and your nephew are not suffering. I mean, it's wonderful, but there are a lot of people in California today who are really feeling this.
I wasn't trying to say that there is no suffering. I was just saying that this is not going to lead to a reversal in the way that people feel about reaching these goals, and that we need to be smart about it.
Maybe they'll just leave California, and they'll take those U-Hauls to Florida. And remember how many of them are getting left in Florida. The company's saying we don't have enough.
Let's get Charlie in here, because I want to show something that I think really represents this transition that you're talking about that we need to acknowledge. So right now, 20% of all power is supplied by coal, right? And let's show an image of what happened in West Virginia when 5 coal miners helped out an electric vehicle that had broken down. And as their state Senator Smith said, here's 5 coal miners pushing a battery car to the coal mine to charge up. And those coal miners said, we just want the world to know we are good people. Their jobs matter for that transition. It is crucial.
Of course.
Oh, absolutely. And this is a good reminder that even though Gavin Newsom has outlawed, gas engines, there's no such thing as a zero emissions car. All cars emit things. Either they emit them while they're riding down the road, or they emit them when they burn the coal in order to charge the batteries. And there's no way around that. And but I think that part of my concern about trying to move everybody over to one single electric grid in California is that it starts to make you wonder, is this all about power? Is it? I mean, everybody's in favor of a cleaner environment and finding renewable sources of power and all that kind of stuff. But is this more about power? Because when you have everybody plugged into one single grid, the conspiracy theory in me, and I'm becoming more conspiratorial by the day around here, it makes me wonder, do they want to plug us all in to one power grid so that they can say you have to set your thermostat at this,
do. That's exactly what's happening.
This much? And it's very worrisome.
That's where the 78 degrees came from. And those people who have smart devices and things that they can keep an eye through, eye on, eye through, whatever it is. I mean, that's exactly what's happening. So it's power of electricity and power of control.
Yes.
That's right. Perfectly said. Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kayleigh McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.